Welcome to Triforge Smithing. Today we're going to be going through the process of how we made these tongs and our previous failed set that did not work very well.
You may have seen the other videos that showed a lack of success and the fact that we had actually taken the frags, these sections, and turned them into blades the last time out. But this, boys and girls, is actually a pair of working tongs.
They do scream at you.
They are actually working on that principle.
We began the process by first off altering a particular plate that we had, and then we got a hammer and another hammer, and we just made a nice indentation in the plate for the actual material that we want to upset.
Then once we started to upset. I don't know why.
I have no idea, and you folks out there in comment land, leave me alone, okay? But for some reason, upsetting a piece, if we give it a cup to sit in, it takes on the shape of the cup, and we wound up with a little bit more of a rounded point to it. Now, it still needed to be refined afterwards, but the truth of it is that we gave ourselves a crude effort at starting with a rounded point from upsetting it into this cup. We used water cooling for it. Yeah.
We put the end that we're trying to upset. We were using the coke forge, as you've noticed. So we'd put it in there. Needless to say, the heat's going to crawl on the steel. We'd bring it out and make it to where just the cherry tip was what was still hot enough to be upset.
Yeah, I'd had to do a couple minor adjustments again on straightening it back out, which was kind of a pain. I would say by the end, especially after putting it on the grinding mill, which you did, I think it came out pretty nice. It did what we wanted for sure.
The planning that we did for this particular set of forges, I did go out and get something that I'd recommend to anybody that's starting into this industry. It's called soapstone. You'll find it in the welding sections of just about any good-sized box store. Soapstone will allow you to mark your steel, and it won't burn off when it goes into the forge. The mark will stay there. So we knew where we wanted to heat particular areas and where we wanted to hammer particular areas with a great deal more precision than we did with the first one. The first time we tried this, the concept was, well, it looks right. It's about close. And it wound up being that we were chasing metal all over the place trying to get this eyeballed in. Once we used a ruler.
What?
A ruler? Yes.
No way.
A ruler, and actually could mark the steel, and these marks would make it to where we want to hammer in this space area and we want to reduce this material by 50% of its overall mass. We had no problem at all staying within those guidelines. Working on that principle, it gave us the ability to actually measure out where we want events to occur in the steel. Again, we were working with this in two separate pieces, so there was a great deal of bring them together, match them up to make sure that these two guys were mirrors to one another as we were moving along through the process. It's not you make one and then make the other and expect them to match. They're not going to.
Yeah.
This is not a machine. This is a human being and another human being. And we were actually working. He was doing one, I was doing the other. And it worked.
Yeah.
Because we were using the ruler. We used the ruler. And it made it to where we couldn't necessarily mess this up because both of us were working in fixed areas that we'd measured out when the steel was cold and long.
Originally, I had recommended that we do the square so that we could do some cool spinning and twisting that would look cool, but it would also help us to align the actual very end of the jaws where we kind of flattened it out. I completely forgot that was the plan. So we just kind of left it squared off around the end of where the jaws are, but it still turned out looking pretty cool. But the overall planning process really was just that. It was measuring out different sections that we intended to have in it, just kind of going at it with a better game plan in our head than the first one, which was just
Winging it.
Yes.
This shape. You'll notice it's got a subtle possum belly at about this point, much more acute, and then this radius. All of this was literally eyeballed in. We made one, and then we made the other one to match that exact shape.
Yep.
All right? All of this was done on the horn, And we noticed that by the time we'd finished shaping this out, we still wound up with one of the feet, we'll call that a foot,
Yeah.
being slightly longer than the other, and we wound up using upsetting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make it?
Yeah, go right ahead. Fire
I
away.
think we should
Fire
call
away.
these lips.
Lips.
Yeah, because these are the jaws.
The
I
lips.
feel like these would go lip. I think they should be lips. I mean, look at them. They're like going.
So they're like puckering. They're like lips.
I think they're lips.
These are little kissers. Working on that principle right at this location. This transition was with the round hammer. It was more sloped, and we wanted this to be an acute line so that when you brought it back, you didn't run into any tension or friction as this metal got thicker. We wanted to make this far more uniform, but our hammers were taking up too much material.
Yeah.
So by using the edge of the square plate, heat up this flat, and then start using that cold metal plate and hammering this flat, we accomplished two things. We smoothed this out, any tool marks were taken, and we also made a distinct cut mark at this point. So we didn't have a hammered looking slow sloping transition. It was and would dive to that piece and then go out flat. And we did this uniformly on this edge, this one, and this one, to any place where we were going to have that frictional transition point. You wound up with this sort of thing. It was genius on his part to come up with that idea, because we were looking at it going, we have too much friction.
Yeah.
They were just too inconsistent, and we didn't want to have to take it to the grinder and grind the material out. And we came up with, I use the word we as if he's got a mouse in my pocket. He came up with, we could use the steel plate. Genius! And so we did. And so that gives you some idea of how we transition from the handles into the beater areas.
The other intention we had when we were making the joining point was to bring it down to about half the material width of the original round stock that we were using, so that we could actually fit them even, essentially bring everything in line with the material. So we had to bring it down to about half the material size, and that also turned out pretty well, I would say. Everything is in line for the most part. So that was just another part of the process.
Here's where blind rage comes in. Blind rage is one of the things you'll find out when you've got it as close to what you want as humanly possible at our level of incompetence, and then realize that once you decide to start putting the pin in here, nothing lines up at all.
Yeah.
Period. But yeah, we wound up really futzing around with this for just a ridiculously long period of time to actually find where the center point was, where we were going to drive. We were using a pilot haul, and then we manufactured a 1/4 inch drift, which is the size of the pin, and we said, let's do that. And that worked out poorly. We actually managed to get one pin thoroughly screwed up and in there, and it didn't fit at all.
Nope.
So we wound up having to drive that pin out and start over again, which, like I said, that's where you wind up with going frustratedly insane, because you would have thought that this was the simple part, but it wasn't. And we wound up doing it the fun way, which was heat up the material at the hinge, put a pin in it, and then bring it out here real quick and tap the living snot out of it to get it to pancake over top of itself, and eureka!
Yeah,
It worked.
and the thing is again, the reason we didn't want to heat that entire section was because we didn't want to mess with the hole itself, but we ended up having to just mess with the hole anyway. We ended up making a hole where it's slightly bigger than the rivet. I mean, just very slightly bigger than the rivet that we put in. So I think next time we're going to have to just do that preemptively with another one.
Right. Our learning process on that particular thing was, don't go 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
Go 3/8 to 1/4 inch. And that way, when you upset the pin, it'll fatten out and take up that space instead of it fattening up in the space. And now it won't move.
Yeah.
You have 1/4 inch, and as soon as you start hammering it, it goes from 1/4 inch to 3/8, which means it won't go through the 1/4 inch on the other side.
No, the only thing I can foresee is if we did do that, I would be slightly worried that we would have even more wiggle in the joint part.
It doesn't have any choice.
That's
It is red hot, and as soon as we start upsetting it, see, I've said that word 3 times consistently. I don't know what it means, but it sounds good. But it's going to go from this to that as soon as we start hammering it out. So going from quarter to another 1/8 of an inch thicker, and as soon as that happens, then you'll have enough room for the pin to be distressed outward, upset outward, and still have some float room for it to move once it's actually hammered into place.
Yeah, and with that being said as well, I think just a slightly longer rivet would probably help with that too, just to give it more material to compress down and upset.
The pin effect, tried something that the videographer recommended, which was heat up a chunk of rod, drive the rod through, and then take the angle grinder and cut it off close to the deck. I don't know that that's the world's best way to go about it, though it worked fantastically this time. Thank you, Mr. Videographer.
Yes.
The Romanian occasionally comes up with those European methods for fixing things. Have we learned all that there is to know about this? What about?
We definitely haven't learned all there is to know about it. It was an extremely fun experience that I wish to not have for at least a couple more months. It was very tedious, but the end product, I mean, I can't argue with it. It's not perfect. I've seen definitely better tongs with better alignment, better shape, more style, all those things. It will do exactly what it's supposed to, which is,
Exactly.
you know, it's a fireplace tong. You're supposed to be able to grab wood with it. I don't think we've actually demonstrated it grabbing wood yet.
I don't have any wood for you to
But
be able to
I can tell you, this probably will not let us down. There's a lot of different smaller improvements. Like, again, I think that our pen placement is slightly off center. I think we got kind of frustrated with it.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of hammered away
Yeah.
at it. But
Again, if you're doing blacksmithing work, a lot of it is sort of seat of the pants.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it. It looks like it wants to work. If we did anything complaining-wise, we'd found that this slope is too acute. We should straighten it out from here straight out instead of dropping it back towards it, because when you're doing this, your hands
get in the way.
get in the way of closing it completely, and they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
These should actually meet here with your hands inside it.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my thought on a decent set of tongs. But
I mean,
unless you're picking up paper,
yeah.
you really don't need to worry about it. If you're picking up something in your fireplace and it's any thinner than that,
Yeah.
deal with it. All in all, we're now at 4 months,
Something like that, yeah.
and we had one critical failure. And then from that, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions, failure is nothing. Failure is what you do when you learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it again and benefiting from the failures and not repeating them means your next attempt gives you this, in comparison to garbage that you just throw into your trash pile to make a knife out of the next time.
Yep.
If we're doing this again at 4 months, why aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, seriously, we're using the wish, the dream, the aspiration to make something and go at it. Get a couple of YouTube videos under your belt, go out there and see if you can ape those same movements. Will you turn out the same way that you saw on YouTube? No, because most of those people have been doing it for a decade or longer, and you've only been doing it for 4 months or less.
Yeah.
All right? So, working on the knife that you saw both of us do just recently, or fireplace tongs that critical failured to the next time you try it, it works.
Mm-hmm. Very squeaky. Sings. It sings a lot.
Some WD-40? WD-40, or just work the living snot out of it, something like that.
Yeah, something like
But either way, this is great. So working on that principle. Like, share, subscribe, come back soon. We'll show you some other insanity that we've tried the next time.
Dude, I gotta do a jump.
Terrible timing, I think, but